Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a story of migration. But, it's not the story you might be thinking of. We're not talking about people. We're talking about the gods they carry with them. And why is it that some of these ideas completely transform on the journey, while others, well, they seem to stay exactly the same?
All right, so let's get right into it. When beliefs travel, when they cross oceans, something really weird happens. Some of them change so much you can barely recognize them, but others, they show up totally unchanged, almost like they were preserved in amber. So why? I mean, what makes one idea so flexible and another one so rigid?
Okay, so to crack this puzzle, our source material points us to three amazing case studies, all from the Chinese communities in Thailand. First up, we've got Mazu, the goddess who protects sailors. Then there's Wang Ye, who's kind of like a divine enforcer against plagues. And finally, the legend himself, Guangdong, the god of war and loyalty.
Okay, and this is where it gets really good. You'd think, right, that since they all ended up in the same place, brought over by similar groups of people, their stories would be kinda similar. But nope, their fates couldn't have been more different. And this isn't just some abstract theological question, it's a real historical mystery.
So check this out. Guangdong, he stayed pretty much exactly the same. Wang Yi, totally reinvented, from the ground up. And Mazu, she landed somewhere in the middle, adapting a bit. So you've got three gods, three totally different paths. What is going on here? What's the one thing that explains why they turned out so differently?
Well, the source material gives us this one single idea that just unlocks the whole thing. It's called institutional completeness. And honestly, it's such a brilliant way to look at this. It explains, well, pretty much everything.
And the beauty of this idea is just how simple it is. Institutional completeness, it's really just a way to measure how finished a god's story was before it started to travel. Was it already a big deal, a finished product with official stamps of approval and a story everyone knew? Or was it more like a flexible startup, kind of making it up as it went along based on what was happening locally?
And this chart just lays it all out perfectly. Look at the pattern. The less complete a god was back in China, the more it changed in Thailand. It's a clear inverse relationship. Guangdong, high completeness, hardly any change. Wang Ye, super low completeness, and boom, a total transformation. And that lack of completeness, well, that was like an open door for other groups, like these big organized religious networks from Taiwan, to come in and basically build a whole new structure around him.
So let's start with Guangdong, our high completeness guy. You can think of him as the finished product. Before he ever left China, his brand was already set in stone. See, his story wasn't just some local folktale. It was state-sponsored. For hundreds of years, Chinese emperors just kept piling on official titles. He got promoted again and again and again, going from a historical general all the way up to the state-approved god of loyalty. Basically, the government had already done all the PR work for him.
So by the time Chinese merchants brought him to Thailand, his job description was crystal clear. He was the god of business ethics, of contracts, of loyalty. Everybody knew the deal. He didn't need any new miracles or outside groups to vouch for him. He was, ready to go right out of the box.
All right, now let's flip the script and look at the complete opposite, Wang Ye. If Guangdong was the big established corporation, Wang Ye was the scrappy startup. He was fluid, he was reactive, and he was totally right for a complete reinvention.
See, unlike Guangdong, Wang Ye wasn't really one guy. It was more like a system, a team of divine inspectors sent down to handle problems. And the worship was often temporary. You'd call them in for a crisis. Say a plague breaks out, and when it's over, you'd ritually send them on their way. They were literally a divine emergency response team. All of this means, of course, he had super low institutional completeness.
And that made him incredibly adaptable, right? So in the early days in Thailand, his worship was pretty informal, just based on whatever local people needed. But then the 1970s hit, and these super organized temple networks from Taiwan showed up. They brought money, they brought standardized rules, and they brought a connection to a huge mother temple back home. They basically gave Wang Ye a complete corporate rebranding, launching him as a formal institutional god.
And here's the key takeaway. Wang Ye's incompleteness, it wasn't a weakness, it was an opportunity. It created this vacuum that these new organized networks were perfectly positioned to fill. It was like a market opening, and they just swept right in and transformed the whole thing.
Okay, so finally, we have Mazu, and she is the perfect middle ground. You could call her the balanced portfolio. She's got a little bit of that grassroots local appeal, but also a healthy dose of official state approval.
Her identity was really built up in layers.
She starts out as this very local goddess, protecting fishermen in one region. But then, just like Guanggong, she starts getting official titles from the emperors. She gets promoted to Empress of Heaven. So she's got street cred and she's got official backing. That puts her right in the middle. Medium institutional completeness.
And that balance put her in a really interesting sweet spot. She was already a big enough deal that she didn't need a total makeover, but she was still flexible enough to be open to new ideas. So when those Taiwanese networks came along, they didn't have to start from scratch like they did with Wang Ye. Instead, they just amplified what was already there. They connected her temples into this huge global network and turned her into a massive international symbol of Chinese culture.
So why does any of this matter beyond, old gods? Well, because this whole framework of institutional completeness is an incredibly powerful tool. You can use it to understand how all kinds of ideas travel and change in the modern world.
And this one quote from the source material, man, it just says it all. The life of a belief is not preservation, but constant reconstruction. It's a total mindset shift, right? It makes you realize that culture isn't some dusty thing in a museum we have to preserve. It's a living, breathing thing that's always being remixed and rebuilt for the here and now. And you can apply this model to pretty much anything. I mean, think about a political idea with a super rigid, complete rulebook. It's probably going to have a hard time adapting when it crosses a border. But a startup idea, one with a strong core message but not a lot of baggage, that can be shaped and molded by a totally new environment. It works for brands, for social movements, you name it.
So the next time you see an idea on the move, whether it's a brand, a meme, or a political movement, just ask yourself, which one is it? Is it a Guanggong, the finished product that won't budge? Is it a Wang Ye, the startup that's just waiting to be reinvented? Or is it a Mazu, finding that perfect balance between staying true to its roots and adapting to a new world? Thanks for watching.